There's a camera company out there that's put over 100,000 license plate readers across the country, logging every license plate that goes by and sharing that data. And they're not just selling to police departments anymore, they want them on your business. So before you put them on your building, there's some things you need to know. It's 2026, and if you run a business, you want physical security. You want to know who's in your parking lot, what's going on around your building, and you want to protect your assets. You're probably hearing a lot about Flock right now, and on paper, it actually sounds pretty good. But there are some serious red flags. And by the end of this video, you'll know whether you want them on your building, or if there's a better alternative that you actually own and control. I'm Clay Archer, CEO DVC Technology, and we've been doing IT and physical security for small businesses since 1995. So this is what I do all day, every day. But there's one thing I want to say up front. Ubiquiti does send me cameras to review. I received no compensation for this video, and these thoughts are all mine. But I will tell you the things that Ubiquiti does well and not so well. So what is Flock actually? Flock is a network of automated license plate readers. They photograph the plate, the time, the date, the location, and they feed it to a large database. That database is searchable across agencies and jurisdictions that choose to share the data. So how does the camera actually work? These are not your typical LPR cameras. They're small 5 megapixel cameras with a 1/2-inch sensor connected to a solar panel, and they have a little Android cellular device that connects it back to the network. These cameras don't actually record video. They grab still images every time a car goes by. And with that image, they build what Flock calls a vehicle fingerprint. So that has the license plate information, the vehicle color, make, model. It actually also catches small details like dents and bumper stickers and trailers and roof racks. And with that information, it can actually detect a vehicle with no license plate at all. And then it ships that information back over the cellular network to Flock's cloud computing network. So Flock doesn't just sell to police anymore. They're pushing hard into small businesses, HOAs, and private property. So the question isn't, is Flock good for police departments anymore? It's, do you want your business data in that national database? Now, I will say that Flock maintains that it's your option to share your data with the national databases or not. But if you want all the benefits of being able to track where the vehicle has been, is going to, and automatically alerting the authorities and that kind of stuff, you have to share your data. So it's kind of baked in a little bit that you are going to use the national database and share your data with the national database. Let me be clear, you can choose not to share your Flock data with the national database. But as we get further into this discussion, you'll start to see that it doesn't make a lot of sense as a security system if you don't. So that begs the question, is there a better alternative? And I think it comes down to one word, and that word is ownership. The whole problem with Flock isn't reading license plates. Being able to read license plates on your property is useful. It's fine. It's not that big of a deal. The problem is the data, and whose database is that feeding? And do you actually own that data, and who are you renting it from? And that's really where the advantage of Ubiquiti comes in, is the ownership of the data, and that you're not paying any rental fees, and that you actually own the data and do not have to expose it to anybody else until you decide that you need to. If you follow my channel or Ubiquiti at all, you know that this is kind of their core value. They are not the overlord. They want you to be in possession of your data. You don't rent or subscribe to anything to use their data, and you do not even have to connect it to the cloud at all. It's in your location. You have control over it. So if you need that information, it's all there for you to pull it. But you're not a node on somebody's national network. It is your data, you control it. But beyond the data control and the big brother aspect of it, there's a huge advantage of having real LPR cameras on your property. As I mentioned before, the Flock takes still images, whereas an AI LPR, for example, takes actual video. So if you're trying to protect your property, what you get with a Flock camera is still images of people coming and going, but you don't get the whole video of what they're doing. And for me, this is the biggest difference. Not only is an AI LPR a superior camera, it's a 1/1/8 inch sensor, and it's a highly capable camera, it's recording that video. A typical instance for me, and this just happened last month, is somebody came to one of our clients' properties and they were dumping construction trash in their back parking lot. They came in with the trailer, drove around in the back parking lot, emptied the trailer, and drove out through the front of the parking lot. And now a Flock camera probably would have caught them, but if they had walked in, it wouldn't have. And what it did for us is it gave us a full story of the person actually dumping the stuff, We saw the full video of them driving the front lot. We got them on the side lot. We got them pulling into the back lot. We were able to identify the person, read their license plate. So we called the police. The police came out. They gave us a portal to log in. We went into UniFi Protect, went into Case Manager, grabbed all the footage, created a zip file, and we were able to upload the data, and they caught the person that did it. Super easy process, but we had all of the data. There was no denying that that was the person that did it. We had video of them doing it, and it gave my client peace of mind that we knew everything that happened. Not that we just got a license plate number of somebody that could have done it. We had actual video of them actually doing the crime. So for me, that's the best way to have that process work. Obviously, there is a little bit of liability of having cameras on your property. They can be subpoenaed. The police can come and ask you for that information, but you're able to give it to them as opposed to them just automatically pulling it without you really knowing. Also, a caveat here, if somebody slips and falls in your parking lot and you have cameras, they can subpoena you for that footage and use that footage against you. But I think that's a very small risk, and I think all of the benefits greatly outweigh that. Now, there is one area where Flock has a huge advantage, and you'll see this in my LPR review video if you've seen that, is placement. Flock has agreements to put these cameras on easements that you really just can't put other cameras. For us here in Jacksonville Beach, there are several cameras here that are just on the side of the highway, and you wouldn't be able to put that camera on the side of the highway with a UniFi camera because it is just in the right of way on the easement where you wouldn't have access. On my property, you saw when I did the AILPR, I went up to the edge of my easement to put that camera in. And Flock has agreements with the cities to be able to put those a little bit further into easements. But like I said before, an AILPR for me in my use case is on my property. So where I eventually put my AILPR was on a light pole in my parking lot, and it's in the perfect position. But being in the perfect position for license plate recognition is super important, and Flock does have a huge advantage with having these contracts with cities and municipalities to be able to put their cameras in the exact optimal position in locations that are just optimal for LPR. But again, for your small business, I'm not trying to catch everybody that's going by the front of my business at 50 miles an hour. I'm trying to catch everybody that's coming into my parking lot. But you can put that camera on your private property in the ideal position. One other huge advantage of UniFi cameras in LPR is that you're able to trigger other things. So if you want to operate a gate, you can do that. If you want to operate a garage door, you can do that with LPR. If you want to send alerts, you can set that up very easily to send an email or open a door. It's very easy in Alarm Manager. It's nice to be able to have control over those alerts and triggers. So here's the good, the bad, and the ugly of the Ubiquiti system. It is not going to be a police replacement system. Those cameras are designed in a certain way to share that data, which just UniFi is not set up to do. I will put a little asterisk by the local setup. I actually use Site Manager in the cloud to connect to my devices. So there is some cloud setup that I've done on my setup, but you can choose to bypass that and completely go local with your storage and your cameras. That does take some setup to do. It's not really the default way to set it up, but it is an option. And if you want to be completely off grid with your system, you can do that with UniFi, which is a nice feature, but it does take a little bit of work. Next, your footage is subpoenaable. If an authority wants to come in and see some of your data, that is, they have the right to do that, and they will do that. So ultimately, you need to be aware that that data could be used against you, but you do have control over it in this system, and they would have to go through the regular channels to subpoena you. And I think at that point, we all agree that that's probably just fine. The next one, obviously I covered in my LPR video, this is very dependent on location and coverage. The exact placement of your camera is super important. And you're probably not going to get people going by at 90 miles an hour, no matter what, with an LPR, where you may get that with the Flock camera. I don't know their upper limit on speed, but obviously they are on highways, so they are up beyond what an AILPR could do. The next is cost, and honestly, I think this is a really good one for Ubiquiti, just across the board for all of their devices, and that's just not cameras. This is switches and routers and all their stuff. Is they have this kind of aversion to the monthly fee. A Flock camera, I think, is $2,500 a year to have on your business, and you're going to have a one-time capital cost with a Ubiquiti camera, but it's going to be substantially less than a flock camera is over a 6 or 7 year lifespan, by an order of magnitude. And with Ubiquiti, all of the development and upgrades that you get with the software over the years is free and included with your original purchase. So that's a big win for Ubiquiti for sure. So should you put flock on your business? I've kind of keeping away from the rant here a little bit on this video just to kind of keep it just technical. And actually there are sites like DeFlock where they list, and I showed you a map of the ones on the highway where they list every flock camera. And I don't necessarily think I would want my business to be listed on a site like that. There's one in my neighborhood and it's kind of a little bit of a negative right now. And I don't know that I would want that on my business. I don't know that I want a map of my camera being on there. There's a lot of buzz about people cutting down flock cameras and anti-flock sentiment. And I don't know that I would want that on my business. I also don't think the pricing model works necessarily that well. And I definitely would rather have video than stills. Knowing everything that happened on my property is important. And I think building that case and seeing what actually happened is as important as just tracking who did it. Actually knowing what went on because you have footage of it really does offer a lot of peace of mind. But ultimately for me, it comes down to choice and ownership. I own my NVR. I own that data. I control that data. I can share it with somebody if I want to, but I don't have to, and it is totally in my control. Ultimately, having cameras on your property comes with some responsibility, and I think being a good steward of that data and a good guardian of that data is part of the process. But this is a big topic. I'd love to hear your comments. So I'm sure you're going to have a lot of them down below. As always, if you have any questions, put them down there as well. And please like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video.